can I have a coffee? It's like, well, it's a cafe, so I guess yes. Instead of just saying, what kind of coffee would you like? But French people make fun of French people speaking English. They're really mean to each other. I moved to France when I was 24 and didn't consider how hard it would be to fit in France. I stayed in the city of Lille in the north of France, then in a little village near Nancy in the east for a couple of months, and then eventually in Paris. I stayed in another farm in the Auvergne area too, but that was just for a month. Most of my time in France has been here in Paris. Paris isn't the favorite choice for expats. Tourists seem to love it, but expats have spoken time and again about their discontent of the city. 2017, 18, 19 and 20, Paris manages to secure the bottom 5 in the ease of settling in index for expats. My experience has been a little different, however, and it's probably because I've had problems. I was focused on 3 things back in the day. Pay back the debt because the interest in India is really high, make sure that I don't get fired, and find like-minded people in the city. Problems can be a blessing. My experience in France has been of 2 kinds: the Paris experience and the everywhere else experience. There's something far more friendly about any city you can pick in France that you just won't find in Paris. And it's not just a language barrier. Despite their good French skills, expats in Paris are quite disappointed with their social life. Paris places among the 5 least friendly cities in the world. Overall, Paris ranks 40th out of 49 cities surveyed for the ease of settling in the 2022 International Survey. So Frank Sinatra and Jay-Z were both wrong. If you could do it here in Paris, in fact, you could do it anywhere. Not New York, here in Paris. Here is fitting into a community in Europe. And if you can do it in Paris, I guarantee that you could do it anywhere else in Europe. I saw these 3 reasons to love France. Bleu, blanc, rouge, these 3 colors. The blue is for the cheese, the red is for the wine, and the green is for the people, which is like white, like the French. It's funny because it's true. I can't seem to put my finger on whites like this, but I have some observations. There are 3 that I have in mind. Firstly, there's no tip culture like we have in India or in the US. We don't have that over here. So there's no incentive to treat your customers nicely. And if the waiters don't treat you nicely, you get grumpy because you got yelled at or you got a sarcastic comment for no reason, and you walk around with that grump. Secondly, most of the local merchants won't see their clients again. Such a floating population, so even if they treat their clients really well, there's not much chances that the same clients will come back, because for many people it's like once in a lifetime thing to go to Paris. So there's no hope of fidéliser le client. Customer loyalty. There's no hope of customer loyalty. The French people have a love-hate relationship with English. I mean, if you went to a village, you probably don't find anybody who speaks English, but here in Paris, you'll find French people who speak English. But French people make fun of French people speaking English. They're really mean to each other. To avoid that mockery, they just avoid speaking English, although they do speak it, you know. To start with, most expats don't speak any French, so if you're just going off with English, you're not going to have the best experience. Even for someone who speaks French fluently, there is still some kind of unnecessary sarcasm that people just throw on your face. When I had a headache, I had asked this guy at the restaurant, this is quite an atypical request, would you have a paracetamol for me, please? I have a terrible headache. And his response could have been, no, I don't, or we're not allowed to give it to you. Instead, he says, we are not a pharmacy, sir. I mean, that kind of unnecessary snappiness, you find that all over the place. Like if I asked this one time, can I have a coffee? He's like, well, it's a cafe, so I guess yes. You know, instead of just saying, what kind of coffee would you like? There's this thing, this Paris thing. It's just not very friendly. And because of my experience over here in Paris, I've had the contrast of anywhere else that I traveled to in the Netherlands, in Germany, in Eastern Europe. I went to Poland and to Hungary so far, and I will go to Czech Republic in a few months. Granted that these Eastern European countries, I went for the language learning conference, and there's already this common ground I had with these people, because of which there is the opposite of the chain reaction from the waiter, where he just yelled at you for no reason. Here I have this unfair good experience with them, and then of course I speak nicely to the strangers that come my way, and then he smiles back and he talks nicely to me with the little English that he has, even in small cities. And owing to the travel I've done this year, I've had a lot of time to reflect on why does this happen? Why do people stick to each other? And here's what I've come up with. There are 2 reasons why people like to stick to each other. One is because of their mutual love for something, or 2 is because of their mutual hatred for something. Indifference is just not such a strong uniter like love and hate. This could be like the mutual love for doing something that's hard, that is definitely uniting, or this could be the mutual hatred for an oppressor. That is definitely uniting. Then your best bet to find yourself a community if you move to Paris or any other place in Europe really is to find yourself something that you like doing again and again. This is really the key. Find out what is fun for you. The usual suspects are church, fitness and cooking. For me, it has been this language learning thing. So when I go to the language learning place, this creates a kind of a connection immediately. I also have this content creation hat. Talking to someone who also does content creation can get us down the rabbit hole, and before you know it, we are speaking about how I could improve my presence online, and this is completely free. They are giving me a piece of their advice, of their brainstorming, completely for free because they happen to enjoy it too and they want to build a relationship with them. There is that admiration that can spark a friendship. At least as an expat, because nobody needs to love you yet. You need to give them a reason to latch on to you. At the end of the day, everybody wants to belong and everybody wants to express their affection, their love, their friendship. Everybody wants to do that. You need to give them a reason to do it, because when you move as a foreigner to a city, you don't have friends from 20 years ago. You don't have family. You don't have friends from your childhood. You may think that you don't need this. You'll just go with the flow and see what happens. But trust me, you do. When your primary problems go away, when you start earning enough money and you have a stable situation at work, then these needs start emerging for you and you feel melancholic for no reason. In fact, if I told the 24-year-old Josh who was flying to Paris for the first time, if I sat next to him, I pulled out my phone and I showed him, this is the apartment where you live in, this is the job that you have, these are the friends from work that you hang out with, this is what you do in the weekends, this is what your hobbies looks like, this is the videos that you make. 24-year-old Joshua would definitely not believe it. He would be like, this is too good to be true, I'm never going to achieve it. Then if I've come here so far and I have built this amazing life for myself, then why am I experiencing this fish out of water melancholy kind of a feeling? Well, a new need emerged. Getting good at French and finding myself a job where I don't feel like an idiot, because I've had a job like that before and that could be really hard. Having my own thing where I learn stuff and I'm proud of the things that I built on this channel, for instance, and helping people out that vocally tell you that your work has helped them. These kind of things have helped me to build my friendships and happiness in a city where it's difficult to build it. So if you're moving here, consider investing your time into something, even though it doesn't pay off immediately. You have those usual suspects if that floats your boat, or there are some more unconventional things like horse riding or canoeing. I went to Hamburg where I met these people who like to do rowing, and they do it every week. So the people they hang out with are rowing buddies. This is a really challenging sport. It takes a lot of effort, and that's their fitness regime. So they found themselves that, and they do their community around that. So find yourself something that you would enjoy. Rock climbing, for instance, is something that I spent a lot of time into. There are so many communities around sports like this that you can do. Even intellectual stuff like book clubs or yoga, if that's something that floats your boat, this is something that you can invest your time into, and you can build your network out of that. There is so much to pick from, but the key really is to stick to it, because that's when you really start getting good at that and the mutual admiration kind of builds. You can't just try it once and say, oh, I went to the yoga thing once and I didn't really like it, I didn't meet anyone. No, I think you should stick to it. It takes a couple of years. If you don't do that, you'll probably find yourself out on a cold Sunday morning observing people who already have their cliques and their whole day laid out for them. Stepping out of the ignorance phase of adolescence and stepping into this responsibility of taking care of yourself and your needs can take a lot of self-reflection and work. I'm on my way on this transition myself. I don't feel completely adulted yet. I still feel sometimes like I'm a child. But this transition can be quite the awakening. And if you haven't figured out your income by the time you're 30, I see it like those legs of a stool, then you have lesser chances of a stable stool because those legs are not tight. And one of those legs for me is community. Next week on the channel, I'm talking about being classified as exotic. Just being classified like that, it kind of makes me feel like a peacock, like an animal, you know? That thing is exotic. It could be the basis of exclusion, or in my opinion, there's also another side to the coin. Hit that bell to make sure you don't miss it when it comes out. And in the meanwhile, you can check out this story of my encounter with a cop here in Paris. P.S. It was not a very pleasant situation. I'll see you guys next week. Oh, by the way, hit the like if you like the video, then like the video because you liked.